Capital One's tech team isn't just talking about multi-agentic AI. They already deployed one, Chat Concierge for car shopping. Their tech team built in self-reflection with live API checks to help buyers find a car they love. That's how they stack. That's technology at Capital One.
I'm Yasmin Gagne.
I'm Josh Christensen.
And this is Most Innovative Companies. On today's episode, Fast Company contributor Jay Willis.
The sportsbooks have made themselves so integral to the fan experience that it's really hard to put that toothpaste back in the tube.
My conversation with Hinge CEO Justin McLeod on stage at this year's Innovation Festival.
We just said, the only thing we're going to focus on is, did we get our users out on great dates?
And, as always, keeping tabs.
Do I need to become a suit guy?
But first, here's the download, the news you need to know this week in the world of business and innovation.
This week, the U.S. reached a grim milestone. This is now the longest government shutdown in history. Congratulations, I guess. Congress is still at a stalemate, with Democrats and Republicans still at odds with one another over how to fund the government. On Monday, the Trump administration, and this is, I guess, a bit of good news, said it would tap into the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Programs, or SNAPs, contingency fund to fund half the food stamp benefits for November. On the darker side of the shutdown consequences, air traffic controllers missed their first paycheck this past week. They are some of the 700,000 federal employees considered essential who must continue to work without pay as the shutdown continues. Several of the nation's busiest airports, including Reagan Airport in Washington, Chicago's O'Hare, LAX, have seen staffing shortages, and cancellations have also been at the rise in places like Boston and New York.
Great. Well, already didn't feel great about getting on a Boeing, but here we are. Tuesday was a huge night for Democrats in local and statewide elections across the country. Zoran Mamdani, the Democratic Socialist, won his bid for New York City mayor over ex-Governor Andrew Cuomo and Curtis Sliwa.
Oh, yeah.
Two Democrats also won governor elections by wide margins, Mikey Sherrill of New Jersey and Abigail Spanberger of Virginia. In California, voters overwhelmingly cast their ballots in favor of Prop 50, which grants state legislators the power to redistrict the state before the 2026 midterm elections. The measure was put on the ballot in an effort to counter similar redistricting efforts by GOP-led states like Texas.
What's your political analysis and takeaway, Yaz?
Oh my God, I know you have one, but now's not the time.
I don't, and I will not share it. Seems like elections happened. Following OpenAI's announcement last week of its restructuring, the AI tech giant announced this week that it had reached a deal with Amazon for $38 billion in cloud computing services. Said restructuring has allowed the ChatGPT maker to buy computing services from other firms without having to seek Microsoft's approval. In a recent interview, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman also confirmed that the company's revenue is in excess of $13 billion a year. In that same interview, when pressed on how it will make good on spending commitments of more than $1 trillion.
Yeah, I know. This is funny.
Altman sounded a little irritated, saying in part, first of all, and this is a quote, "First of all, we're doing well more revenue than that. Enough. I think there are a lot of people who would love to buy OpenAI shares." Altman also denied that he plans on taking the tech giant public in the next year.
Kimberly-Clark, which I thought was just a toilet brand, but in fact is the brand behind Kleenex, Cottonelle, and Huggies, announced this week an agreement to acquire Tylenol maker Kenvue in a deal expected to close in 2026. The deal will be made through both a stock and cash transaction expected to value Kenvue around $48.7 billion. The announcement buoyed Kenvue stock about 17%, while Kimberly-Clark's stock dropped about 12%. This comes as a piece of good news for the Tylenol manufacturer, which weeks ago came under scrutiny from the Trump administration after President Trump and RFK Jr. spread the unfounded claim that Tylenol was linked to autism.
Amazing. It's just great. I'm sure this has been in the works for a while, and when that came out, Kenvue was like, fuck.
Yeah, oh, totally.
Anyways, next news story. This week, shareholders of Tesla will decide whether or not to grant CEO Elon Musk a pay package totaling nearly $1 trillion, equal, strangely enough, to the amount of spending commitments that OpenAI has. If awarded, Musk would own almost 29% of Tesla shares, granting him a controlling vote. The pay package, however, hinges on Musk's ability to achieve a series of difficult goals, including boosting the company's stock market value to $8.5 trillion and deploying 1 million humanoid robots. Please don't include that. Nobody needs that. No, do not incentivize someone to create an army of humanoid robots. Anyways, Musk is already facing headwinds, though. On Tuesday, one of Tesla's biggest investors, Norway's sovereign wealth fund, said that it will be voting against Musk's pay package.
Well, at least he's got his priorities straight. He's been on all over X this morning.
Yep.
And finally, TikTok this week announced the launch of an awards show in the US for the first time. The announcement follows a similar one by Meta's Instagram, which announced its Ring Awards program for its top creators a few weeks ago. The awards show is set to take place at the Hollywood Palladium in Los Angeles on December 18th and will include categories like Creator of the Year, Video of the Year, and Breakthrough Artist of the Year, among others. Similar awards show for the platforms have previously taken place in Mexico, Korea, Germany, and other countries.
This feels like the spiritual successor to America's Funniest Home Videos. You know what I mean?
No, this is going to be like the VMAs for people who have no attention span. It's going to be like a 30-second performance.
The self-diagnosed with ADHD VMA Awards.
Exactly.
Best in medical propaganda should be one of the award categories.
You got to close us out.
And that's the news you need to know today.
So, Josh, have you ever placed a sports bet?
Yeah. I actually placed one after our interview that we have today. We're going to get to it. But after we talked about this, I don't know if this is a bad thing. I was like, I should place a couple bets on my DraftKings
That's awesome.
app.
You really took nothing from this, and I like that.
It was so dumb. I don't know why I did. After I did, I was like, the fuck is wrong with me? What am I doing? I don't bet a lot of money, though. I do play fantasy football with a little bit of money on the line, and I'll occasionally throw I'm talking like $5 bets on sports games, just a little something to make it interesting.
You're like, I just feel like losing small amount
losing
of money today.
Yeah, I just want to lose a little bit of money. I could buy a coffee, or I could lose $5 for no reason. Yeah. Do you bet on anything? Have you ever done anything like that?
No. I'm too risk averse and sensible.
Sure, I think
sensible air quotes.
I know. Sensible in this regard only. I feel like your go-to betting is just making fake bets with people around our office about doing random things in meetings.
Oh, 100%. I'm always messaging people being like, I will literally Venmo you $2 if you raise your hand in a company all hands meeting and say, I feel like generative AI is a really big trend this year.
Oh my God. Yeah. I think it's mostly directed at Max Ufberg, friend of the pod.
Yeah, 100%.
Tech editor
and now
section.
that he's on paternity leave, what are we going to do?
I know, but the amount of times you're just...
And he considers it every time.
He does, because he's a very smart person, but you've all heard...
Because he's so nice.
You've all heard Max.
Yeah.
He's a gullible man. It's also just really funny to be egging on our tech section editor to debase himself in public meetings. He's never actually taken us up on it, but...
I know, but one day he will. One day he will. My husband in business school class has a, it's like a bingo card for like stupid things you can do in one class. And they try and play it. So it'll be like somebody gets up to go to the bathroom, but like goes to the wrong door on purpose and just rattles it a lot during the lecture.
This is Harvard Business School,
I know,
mind you.
I know, yep. It's a fake degree.
They did have Machine Gun Kelly come and teach one of their classes.
Machine Gun Kelly spoke recently. It was Halloween, and Lou was like, I'm going to class dressed as a hibachi chef.
What?
And I was like, why? And he was like, I don't know, but there's like 9 of us doing it. I was like, this is still not an explanation, but That's fine. We're going to park this.
Meanwhile, you're home 7 months pregnant.
I know. I was like, how did I get here?
Living in Cambridge, 7 months pregnant.
Lou's like saying bye to me wearing a hibachi uniform. I'm like, okay.
Father of your child.
I'm like, can you pick up cornflakes on the way home? Bye. Anyway, we got off track, but we are talking about gambling today.
Which, honestly, it was a gamble for Yaz to get married to Lou.
It's true.
I'm kidding. Lou's a great guy.
Panned out. Listen, if he doesn't get a business school internship, he has a future at Benihana.
He's got the uniform.
He's already got the uniform.
This is so stupid. Okay, let's move on.
Since 2018, platforms like FanDuel and DraftKings have been growing steadily. What used to take a trip to Vegas or finding a less than legal bookie is now legal in 40 states, and placing a bet is as easy as sending Venmos. More troubling than that, major sports leagues have fully embraced sports betting and have partnerships with major sportsbooks, raising questions about the integrity of the games. The question is more pressing than ever after another player-involved betting scandal rocked the NBA just as the new season was getting underway. We spoke with Fast Company contributor and editor-in-chief of Balls and Strikes, Jay Willis, to unpack the details of the latest scandal, what led up to this moment, and where the leagues can go from here. So, Jay, I know you are Blue Sky's foremost sports commentator. Is that fair to say? Is there anybody else on Blue Sky that does this?
No, I'm the only person on Blue Sky who talks about sports. That is my role, and I play it well.
How are you feeling about the NBA season so far?
I was feeling pretty good. I'm a Golden State Warriors fan, so first couple of games went really well. Jonathan Kuminga went apparently from
he can play,
not cracking Steve Kerr's rotation at the end of last year to being good. I was watching a game where he was hitting players on backdoor cuts to the basket, and I was texting my friends and I was like, who is number one for the Warriors, and why is he Magic Johnson? How did this happen? Since then, they have lost to the Bucks without Giannis and the Pacers without, as far as I can tell, any of what used to be the Pacers' good players. So I'm already reverting into great we suck again mode. It's been a roller coaster 2 weeks, and I'm glad to be on it.
The only basketball I've seen recently is Chris Paul made a cameo on Love is Blind on Netflix. And I remembered the time that Chris Paul was eating in our office because I think he was doing a video.
Oh, yeah.
And
we did a peak performance with him.
But I didn't know who he was. So I was like, oh, hey, I'm Yaz. I thought he was maybe a new employee at the bagel station. And he went, I'm Chris Paul. And I was like, 2 first names. Nice.
And that's famously what he's known for, 2 first names.
Also, Chris Paul is, a Hall of Famer, all of that good stuff. He is basically my height.
I know. My husband's a Rockets fan. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's unassuming.
It would not be out of the question to run into him and be like, wonder what department he just joined.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, sales, okay.
His answer is I just joined the Spurs. Who's he play for now? Oh, he's back on the Clippers. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So let's get into the actual thing we're talking about today, which is the latest NBA scandal. What happened?
Oh, man. How much time do we have? Let's do the shortest possible version of this. Federal prosecutors have indicted just a cinematic array of characters in basically 2 separate operations that had a lot of overlapping characters and a lot of overlapping facets. So the first is a series of allegedly rigged poker games controlled by the mafia.
That's cool. I thought that was cool. I was like, yeah, this is awesome.
Talking about this scandal just hits a bingo card of what sounds like an Aaron Sorkin show on Netflix.
Yeah.
Didn't he, what was that movie that he made?
Molly's
Game.
I saw that movie alone in the afternoon.
Honestly, Molly's Game holds up. It's good.
It's pretty good.
Molly's Game is pretty good. I watched it recently. Michael Cera as Tobey Maguire. Still funny. Anyway.
Yep, absolutely. So you had these rigged poker games where former NBA players that they were used basically as like enticements to get wealthy players to the game. Like, oh, you can play poker with Chauncey Billups, or you can play poker with Damon Jones, if like playing poker with a bench player on the 2004 Cavs is something that you find enticing. But basically, everyone at the table except the mark would be working together to get the mark to lose a bunch of money. And the way they would do it, as alleged in the indictment, is like, it's straight out of James Bond. We're talking special glasses that allowed players to see markings on the cards, rigged card shuffling machines that allowed them to get a hand on who had the best hand and how to bet accordingly. Really cool stuff. I think we can all concede, like, rigged gambling, bad. Mafia, bad. As alleged in this, like, it sounds pretty cool. Like, I'm going to watch that show.
Oh, yeah.
Also a missed application for the Apple Vision Pro.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's going straight to the cutting room floor of their ad agency. Yeah. But for our purposes, what's more interesting is a separate indictment that alleged a series of rigged underbets on NBA games. And it centers around Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier, who allegedly tipped off one of his childhood friends that he planned to pull himself out of a game early. And that's information that could allow you, if you knew in advance, to bet on his under prop bets. So bets that he would score under a certain number of points, have under a certain number of rebounds, so on and so forth. And then where this ties back into the poker scandal, again, loosely, you need the like full Charlie Kelly, Pepe Sylvia gif to follow this, but like, stay with me. Some of the people involved in the betting scandal who were placing bets on Terry Rozier's inside information were also involved in these poker games, which again also involved some former NBA players. But basically, it is the second scandal in 2 years involving alleged manipulation of underbets. Last year, there was sort of an into-the-bench player on the Toronto Raptors, Jonte Porter, who tipped off bettors that he was going to pull himself early, again, feign an injury, so that his under bets hit. So if you're looking to establish a streak, we are at 2 straight years of the same type of manipulation coming to light, which if you're an NBA PR person, it's not a good time.
For somebody like Terry Rozier, I have to imagine he makes a fair amount of money. Like, why is he getting involved in this stuff?
It's a great question. Like, I don't want to do too much armchair psychology here, but you're right. Part of the explanation for the Jonte Porter scandal, especially from sports leagues, sports books, people with a vested interest in downplaying the scale of a scandal and keeping the betting industry going, is they were like, look, Jonte Porter, I think he was on a 2-way contract. So like, he is making very little money. His position in the NBA is tenuous at best. And so the company line was, he has the most incentive to, maybe try and make some extra money off this while he can. And he's also, players in his shoes are most susceptible to coercion. I believe it eventually came out that part of the reason Jonte Porter agreed to do this was his own gambling debts.
Oh, wow.
But you're right. Terry Rozier is currently in the final year of a 4-year, $96 million contract. Like, this is not someone on paper who you would think would be wanting for cash. But like, I don't know, for some people, the action is the juice, right? Like, it's fun to try and pull off something like this.
Also, conceivably, maybe he was just like, oh, I'm going to do my childhood friend a solid and make him rich. And then his childhood friend really, got too excited.
That's absolutely right. Like, there are plenty of reasons that one would want to do something like this. I think you can make a good case that if Terry Rozier's childhood friend had just been a little more circumspect about how he was placing bets on this inside information, he probably can make some extra money and nobody finds out.
Yeah.
Part of the reason that this came to light is because, as alleged in the indictment, he placed some bets, but he also told a bunch of people who then placed bets of their own. And then the sports books start to be like, wait, something's up here. But again, if he just kind of keeps that to himself, we might not be talking about him right now.
How can the sports books kind of detect this stuff? Is it just like there's so many people betting on like a totally random thing, basically?
So most of the sports books use some kind of third-party monitoring firm that keeps tabs on bets that are getting placed in different locations, in different sports books, via different, media apps, in person, so on and so forth, just to make sure that like nothing weird is happening. And that is how they caught the Terry Rozier activity here. To give you an idea of the scale of bets that were suddenly coming in on Terry Rozier's unders for this one particular game, sportsbooks across the country mostly pulled Terry Rozier's props after so many bets came in, including one bettor at one casino who wagered more than $13,000 across 30 separate bets in less than an hour. Okay. So like one guy walks into one casino and just like sits down at the sports book and he's just hammering every Terry Rozier under he can think of. And just a little pro tip, if you're trying to make money off something that's fixed, take a break, place a couple bets, go have a drink at the bar, go like play craps, go do something else, maybe come back later, place some more bets. But if you are just racking bet after bet for 46 minutes, that's on you if you get found out. That's my view.
So I want to talk a little bit about prop bets, which are at the center of this scandal. And I'd love to get a primer from you on what prop bets are. And then tell us a little bit. You also wrote a piece about Kalshi and Robinhood's entry into the prop bet market. Like, what does the landscape look like right now?
So prop bets are wagers on, the technical definition is like a given outcome occurring or not occurring during a game. They are basically games within a game. Instead of betting on which team wins, that's a money line bet, or which team wins by how much, that's a point spread bet. You're betting on things like how many points will Steph Curry score? How many threes will he make? And the sportsbooks set lines for this. They'll say the over-under for Steph Curry's points tonight is, he's got a good matchup tonight. It's 29. Do you think he'll score more or less? And you can wager on that. The reason prop bets are popular is because, number one, they play off fans' intuition that they know their teams better than sportsbooks do. Like, I don't know. I watch a lot of Warriors, and I understand the intuition to be like, you know what? This is going to be a big Draymond night, and those silly sports books, they don't understand, and I do, and I'm going to make some money off of that. But also, like, the other side of this is it gives you a rooting interest in a game or a team or a player that you might not otherwise care about. If you're going to watch a game, and it's not your team's, you can have some fun rooting for one side of it, rooting for one player within it, so on and so forth.
Are you a prop bettor?
Great question. First of all, sports betting, not for me personally. I get stressed out just like watching games. The outcome of a close game causes my heart rate to go up. So having money on it would just like be not good for my blood pressure. It's kind of a know thyself situation. I also live in one of 12 nanny states where the powers that be have not legalized gambling since the Supreme Court opened the door to that. Shout out Washington State. So in order to gamble on sports, I have to go to a casino. And I don't know, I have 2 little kids. That seems far away. And little kids generally not welcome in casinos as far as I understand them. Not to go too far down like the different engines of the sportsbook economy, but prop bets are also like a pretty big part of parlay bets. So parlay bets are bets that require more than one thing to happen. Those are called legs. So you can have a 3-leg parlay where you're betting on all 3 occurrences coming down a certain way. You can have 8-leg parlays. And the reason these are so popular is because the odds stack on top of one another. So the chances of you getting all 8 things right may be pretty low, but the potential payout is pretty high. As with most things in the sports betting industry, these are not as lucrative to bettors as bettors imagine. The Washington Post had a great feature on this recently, showing how leg by leg of a parlay bet showing how the payout goes up, but the odds of the bet hitting go up further each time. And the reality of parlay bets is that the sports books take so much of that money, almost all of that money. Occasionally they have to pay out like a long shot, but for the most part, they are just like pocketing sucker bets.
The way I've tried to explain this to my husband.
I used to have just for fun, I would put like a $1 or like $5 bet on like a 20 leg parlay of a bunch of like, just to be like, it's a lottery ticket at this point, just for fun. And it would be like $5 bets, 20 leg parlay, $50,000 payout on astronomical odds. But but like you said, we just had Amy Howe, who's the CEO of FanDuel, on Brendan Vaughn's podcast Office Hour last month, and same game parlays are a huge part of their business.
Another part of the reason it's so appealing, and this is again from the post analysis that I thought was such a helpful way to think about this, is when you are placing a parlay bet, for the most part, setting aside the nuances of same game parlays, if you're placing a parlay bet on a bunch of different games and a bunch of different outcomes, for the most part, you're talking about independent events, right? Like the outcome of Falcons-Bucks doesn't have anything to do with the outcome of Jets-Patriots.
Right.
But if you have an 8-leg parlay and you lose on one leg, it presents the illusion that you almost won a bet, that you were so close, and that surely maybe next time, you'll hit all 8. When the reality is you just lost. Like there's no almost winning a bet because they're not related to each other. It is appealing to fans because it presents the illusion of like control and coming close to something. And surely if you just try this again, maybe you'll get a different outcome.
We had Amy Howe from FanDuel on Brendan's podcast, and I feel like a lot of these sports books are also seeing a threat from somewhere like Kalshi, which has a partnership with Robinhood and which does contracts rather than bets. They define it differently so that they can get 18-year-olds to place bets.
Kalshi is sort of hard to talk about because the simplest way to explain it is a sports book that is not regulated by state gaming regulators and that is open nationwide to 18-year-olds as opposed to 21-year-olds. That is like the takeaway. Now, the reason that this is ostensibly different comes down to a lot of legal jargon. Like they're not sports books, they are financial exchanges. They are regulated by the federal government, by the CFTC. And so the position of Kalshi is that they are not subject to regulation by state gaming commissions and, critically, not subject to taxation by state gaming commissions. But the upshot of this, is the rosiest picture you can paint of the legalized gambling landscape is it is regulated by states, it is taxed by states, and their position is they use these sophisticated monitoring systems and they have the expertise to be able to detect illegal activity, suspicious activity, like the Terry Rozier bets, like the Jonte Porter bets. Kalshi is functionally a backdoor to legalize gambling nationwide. And again, you can be 18 to bet in quotation marks. Kalshi doesn't like words like bet because they say they're not a sports book. You need to be 18 in order to buy contracts on Kalshi. And given what we know about who is most susceptible to gambling addiction, who is most susceptible to impulsive behavior, like you're opening up a whole can of worms by allowing functionally college-age people to be able to wager on the outcomes of sports. There have been, really well-done profile studies of gambling addiction. One of these things that's always stuck in my head is the people they found who are gambling away, like savings, sure, inheritances, sure, but student loan dollars are getting wagered on sports.
Yeah.
And that is a dark series of words that just came out of my mouth. And companies like Kalshi are, by the products they're offering, are exacerbating those dangers and those harms, in my view.
So it seems like the type of sports betting scandals we're talking about have become more prevalent in recent years. I don't know if that's actually true. That's sort of the vibe I'm getting because our editor-in-chief is really into this and I, try and pitch him things he likes. What can you say about that?
The answer to that question is complicated and I think really nicely illustrates sort of the pickle that the leagues are in. So if you talk to any sports league, they will say that legalized gambling is good for rooting out corruption because you bring it all above board and you get these monitoring companies, integrity firms, to track for unusual sports betting, and you catch scandals like Terry Rozier, like Jonte Porter's. And indeed, that is how these scandals first sort of came to the attention of leagues and then eventually of law enforcement, is that the betting got flagged. Too many people are betting way too much money on Jonte Porter, who plays 11 minutes a game and has a career average of 3.7 points per game. Something's up. But I think what this fails to take into account is that, first, the reason people are able to try and place dirty bets on Jonte Porter, for example, is because betting is more available to people than it's ever been before. You can bet on multiple apps on your phone. You can link up your credit card and your checking account to it. There's a great time profile of people who are battling gambling addiction that also has a quote that sticks with me. One guy says, "I wish I had a casino gambling hobby because you have to leave your house and go to the casino and bet. Now you can be sitting on the toilet and deposit an infinite amount of money." And so the ubiquity of sports gambling and of these apps just has eliminated barriers to entry for people who think they can make a quick buck off of inside information. Compare this to the status quo before 2018, when the Supreme Court opened the door to legalize gambling. In order to bet on something like, I know Terry Rozier or Jonte Porter is going to pull themselves from the game tonight, what would you have had to do? You'd have to go to Vegas, right? And start placing bets or, some of the few places where you could legally wager. You would have to go to an offshore casino, which existed, but, signing up for an offshore casino is not as seamless as downloading the FanDuel app.
And you might have, once you're at the casino, a come to Jesus moment where you're I'm looking around.
Sure.
It's very sad here.
Yeah, that large man who failed out of the police academy, providing security, is staring at me and I feel uncomfortable. Or, off the books, illegal gambling has been around for a long time. You maybe could have found a bookie who would give you odds on this. But again, those are all barriers to entry that make it really challenging. So I think my response to the league's position that, above board gambling makes corruption easier to root out is, sure, but you are also encouraging more corruption in the first place. And then the other aspect of this is, let's assume, an assumption I do not hold, but let's assume that the league's monitoring tools for rigged gambling are as good as they say. There's still a problem with fan perception, where as the fans see more and more of these scandals coming out, every time they place a bet that doesn't hit, it's in the back of your head,
it's rigged.
Did I just lose a fair and square bet? Or is this corruption that the league just hasn't caught yet? Anecdotal, but you can check my work on this. Search the name of any underperforming player in any game on X. You will just get a torrent of tweets that are basically saying, why isn't this player on the field? Why aren't they giving this player the ball more? This has to be rigged. I swear this is rigged. This is rigged. FBI, tagging Kash Patel to get him to open an investigation, which it's pretty funny to see, but also I do think that's indicative of a shift in how fans, betting and non-betting fans, view the sports that they're watching. If any outcome that seems aberrant to you, which basically means any outcome that you don't like, if any outcome you don't like it's in the back of your head that this might be the product of corruption, like that is a bad place for the leagues to be. And I don't think they have a good answer for that. And I certainly don't think they have a solution for that.
What is the relationship like between sports leagues and these betting apps at the moment?
Very friendly and very lucrative.
That's what I figured, yeah.
So there's a 2018 study right after the court opened the door to gambling that estimated that the 4 traditional major sports leagues, Major League Baseball, the NBA, the NFL, and the NHL, stood to make $4 billion per year collectively in direct and indirect revenue from the legalization of gambling. And shocker, the leagues don't tend to advertise how much money they are making from their partnerships with sportsbooks. But if you start with that estimate and then you look at how quickly the legal gambling industry has exploded, has permeated the fan experience, the number's got to be big. The handle now, which is the total dollar amount that bettors are wagering, is about $100 billion per year. And to give you a sense of where this could be headed, there are some analysts who think that by next year, the handle could be $20 billion per month.
Oh my God.
From the outset, everyone correctly assumed that legalized sports betting would make the leagues a lot of money.
Yeah.
I think if anything, probably those are going to end up being underestimates.
I guess given that information, we just talked about this incident with the NBA at the beginning. How is the NBA responding?
The leagues, I think, do understand the potential danger that prop bets pose to how fans perceive the game. Again, I don't think they have a good answer, but I think they understand the problem. And so their reaction to, especially like the Jontay Porter scandal from last year, has been to talk about restricting prop bets, especially for players like Porter, who are at the end of the bench, who are among, more fringe NBA players. Maybe there's no need to offer under bets for players like that. And so the NBA did go to its sportsbook partners after the Jontay Porter scandal, and the sportsbooks agreed to stop offering those bets. Leadership in other leagues have talked about the dangers that prop bets pose and gestured at the idea of reforms here. Like, 2 things to keep in mind. First of all, the decision makers here ultimately are the sports books.
Right.
Sure, in partnership with the leagues, they take input from the leagues like you would in any business relationship. But ultimately, the NBA had to make the business case to the sports books that offering Jontay Porter props wasn't worth the trouble. The sports books are the ones who are in charge here. They're the ones who get to decide what kind of bets to offer. And then just taking a step back from the particulars of prop bet regulation, what we're talking about here is just like, you're seeing the limitations of a regulatory strategy that is inherently reactive. If the way you are trying to figure out how to make sports betting, legal sports betting viable, is just by reacting to the facts of the most recent scandal, like, you're not doing a good job.
Yeah.
And you are always going to invite people to try and figure out different ways to try and make money off the status quo. I think one of the problems with what happened in 2018 is, we went from a very highly regulated betting landscape to, it's the Wild West out there. Whatever states want to do, however they want to regulate things, go with God. Whatever leagues want to do, like, go nuts. And what we're watching now is the troubles inherent in figuring out, maybe we do need some rules here. But after several years now of the leagues having all of these official partnerships with sportsbooks, teams have official sportsbooks. There are plenty of stadiums and arenas now where you can place bets in the arena during the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the sportsbooks have made themselves so integral to the fan experience that it's really hard to put that toothpaste back in the tube. It is certainly in the NBA's best financial interests to portray scandals as one-offs, as aberrations, and to continue to take this money in.
When people see someone gambling and getting into problem gambling, it's like, well, that's just their fault.
Mm-hmm.
That's just their fault, which I think is kind of a gross reaction, but maybe that's changing a little bit. Can we get into the public reaction to these scandals and sports betting?
You already mentioned the sort of mistrust of the league or the institution that came as a result of this.
Public opinion on sports betting is changing. And, we have pretty good polling data on this. So Pew has done opinion polling on sports betting, and they released the most recent sort of survey data earlier this year. And I guess the high-level takeaway is people like sports betting a lot less than you might think, given how ubiquitous sports betting content is. 43% said it's a bad thing for society. 7% say it's a good thing for society. And 50% have no opinion, neither good nor bad.
I don't know.
Any survey results where half of people have no opinion, it's tough to draw a strong conclusion.
Yeah, that's true.
But what I do think...
I think Love is Blind is bad for society, but I also watch it.
Yeah.
Well, and there's also plenty of people who don't watch Love is Blind and have no idea why this survey or this person from Pew is calling them.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think what it shows is that to the extent that you are familiar with sports betting, chances are you hate it, right? 43% and 7%. And these numbers are up. In 2022, when Pew last surveyed the subject, 34% said good, 8% said bad, 57% had no opinion. Now, I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers at people, but what I'm seeing in the trend there is that more people are becoming familiar with sports betting and more people don't like it. And then the last little wrinkle in the numbers is that you can basically chalk up changing attitudes almost entirely to the growth of online betting. And here's why. Since 2022, the percentage of people who say they bet informally, right, like with friends or in fantasy football leagues, stuff like that, that hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed is the number of people who say they are betting online. So again, the more prevalent that sports gambling has become in the fan experience, and the greater the percentage of people who are betting on their phones, the more people say, hey, I don't think this is great after all. My experience is that this is not something that I should be able to do. If you look down in the crosstabs of the polling a little bit, you can see that the greatest increase in the percentage of people who say that sports betting is bad comes in young people who we know are especially among young men, who are most susceptible to gambling addiction. I think that's really tragic, but also really telling, is that the people whom this industry is targeting are the people who are increasingly repelled by this industry's efforts to rope them in.
That's really interesting. Now, I guess to end this, looking ahead, what can we expect from any of these leagues? Or, you know what I mean? It seems like Congress has called Adam Silver to testify. What's that going to look like? Do you see any change coming?
I think it is very easy for lawmakers from both parties to pound the table and talk about the integrity of the game and the importance of fair competition and so on and so forth. I don't think there is a critical mass of bipartisan lawmakers who can get their shit together to pass a meaningful law, let alone one that a president who's currently occupied with tearing down the White House is going to sign if it comes across his desk. So again, you get back to the situation where the leagues don't have any incentive to proactively limit betting in some way or the other. And again, they often don't have the power to do so, even if they wanted to. The sports books certainly don't have any incentive, and the powers that be in state legislatures, state gaming commissions, they have close relationships with all of the sports books. They get money from the sports books. They have a good thing going. And it is going to be very challenging for them, even if they wanted to suddenly roll that partnership back. So I guess the way I'd answer the question is, Adam Silver will, surely frown and nod somberly and tell Congress that he's working very diligently on preserving the integrity of the game. Nothing is more important than that. But in terms of action, my bet, sorry for the phrase, my bet would be that you see the next big scandal before you see meaningful changes in the legal landscape.
We're going to take a quick break, followed by my interview with Justin McLeod on stage at this year's Innovation Festival.
Capital One's tech team isn't just talking about multi-agentic AI. They already deployed one. It's called Chat Concierge, and it's simplifying car shopping. Using self-reflection and layered reasoning with live API checks, it doesn't just help buyers find a car they love, it helps schedule a test drive, get pre-approved for financing, and estimate trade-in value. Advanced, intuitive, and deployed. That's how they stack. That's technology at Capital One.
Tinder and Bumble are struggling. Hinge seems to be doing okay. We've talked about why on the podcast before. Now, at the Fast Company Innovation Festival, I interviewed Hinge founder and CEO Justin McLeod about why his business is succeeding and whether he worries the younger daters might choose to date AI bots over real people. I also have a feature about this coming out in our winter issue on newsstands soon. There's been a lot of talk in the media about the dating app apocalypse, but Hinge grew its revenue by 39% last year. How'd you do that?
So, I started Hinge, like I said, in 2011, and I just wanted to appeal to the next generation of daters and create something that was like simple and easy and fun, because at the time there were dating websites where you had to fill out very long profiles and search through people, and you had to pay a lot of money to join. And the idea was, could you create something that really felt more like Instagram or something like actually closer to social media at the time, where it was easy and it was authentic, you weren't using screen names, and you could just appeal to the next generation. Because I was 27 when I started it, and my generation just wasn't using dating services, or if they were, they certainly weren't talking about it. So that was the original idea. And then when we rebooted in 2015, we did that in reaction to the fact that these apps had become really superficial, and people weren't just getting the results that they wanted. That if you made it too simple and easy and approachable, then people didn't put in a lot of effort, they didn't put in a lot of thought, and it was actually really hard to learn people's tastes and connect people who had similar intentions. And so rebooted the company and made our North Star, instead of engagement and retention, which is all the kind of focus of the VCs and what social media was measuring at the time, is like how much time can you keep people in the app? Can you retain them week over week and month over month? We just said, the only thing we're going to focus on is, did we get our users out on great dates? And re-engineered our product so that it was all about actually like what is effective at getting people out on dates. And we've just made that our North Star. And it started slow, and a lot of other apps continue to grow much faster than us because they were more engaging and more exciting. But over time, word of mouth led to Hinge becoming now the fastest growing and in fact only growing major dating app. And yeah, we're now the most downloaded app in essentially the West.
Now, Hinge's UX is kind of interesting. You talked about when you founded it, reacting to the fact that people were spending hours filling out these long questionnaires. On the other end, you've got apps where you might just upload one photo and have a screen name. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about your approach to developing these profiles and the behaviors you're hoping to encourage.
Yeah, I mean, the art of this ends up being hitting this like sweet spot of getting people to do things that are both approachable and that they're willing to do, but also signal a level of intention and create a level of vulnerability so that you can actually create connection between two people. And so, yeah, you can swing to one end where it becomes so easy and approachable that it's really hard. You send like on half the photos you see, you hardly have any information about these people, and so it's really hard to find your person. So, yeah, we created a longer profile sign-up. You actually had to add 6 photos and 3 prompts and a lot of like vitals and stats about yourself. We asked you to be much more thoughtful with your likes, to like individual pieces of content about someone so that people just got more thoughtful and acted more like a human, right? If you liked someone, you would comment about something about them or try to start a conversation about some point of connection. You wouldn't just say like, I like you, do you like me too? And so we just tried to make the process much more authentic, much more human, and yet still relatively easy and approachable as well.
How do you feel when other apps do the same thing?
Flattered. We definitely took a big bet when we pivoted the company back in 2015, and I had offers even at the time to go and join another dating app conglomerate, and they're like, we'll just throw away your product and we'll just make yours the relationship-y swipe app. And I refused. I said I would rather just this company go down than like do that. And it was a big bet. And it's really cool to see it validated in the market. And now that we're the leader, I learned from experience when I did in the time from 2011 to 2015, we were copying the leader. We were thinking like, oh gosh, everyone's talking about the swipe apps at the time, so we need to do more of what they're doing. And I learned that you don't win in the market by copying the leader if you're not the leader. If you're the leader, sure, copy startups that maybe have a good idea, but you're not really going to catch the leader if you're copying what they're doing.
Dating behaviors during the pandemic were kind of crazy. I think we saw massive growth on a lot of dating apps. I think now some apps are sort of realizing maybe that wasn't the right strategy. What has it been like for Hinge, both during the pandemic and afterwards?
The pandemic, I think, accelerated growth for us. It moved people towards richer media and more comfort with things like video calls before a date or adding voice to their profiles, which actually is very, very powerful to use voice notes and voice prompts. And it accelerated our growth, but our growth has only, I think, continued since then.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, what kind of behaviors are you seeing Gen Z do on the app compared to other generations?
There's actually, interestingly, like not huge generational gaps in usage of Hinge. It's a pretty universal experience. I think love is somewhat of a universal experience. Yeah. And I think that, like, yes, a bit more comfort using things like voice notes, voice prompts, things like that. And also we have things in the app that help coach people towards filling out better and better profiles. And so things like we just launched a AI-driven feature called prompt feedback, which sometimes you'll see if you're a user of Hinge or if you've ever used Hinge that people will write a 1 or 2 word answer to a prompt, which doesn't give you a lot of insight, like what's your ideal Sunday? And they say brunch. And so in order to actually like have people fill out fuller profiles, we'll say like, oh, well, like, where do you like to go to brunch? What do you like to eat? What do you like to talk about? And just coach people in that direction. And
so you're like interviewing it out of them, basically.
Yeah, a bit, because I think we see just a wide, diverse range of behavior for different people. It doesn't necessarily cut generationally, but certainly some people are, especially in the realm of social media, have, I would say, like atrophied social skills and need a little bit more help showing up and connecting with other people.
So I want to keep talking about sort of AI usage in the app. When did you start thinking about it? And tell me the ways you've implemented it in the user experience.
Well, I mean, one, it depends what you mean by AI, because that's like a very broad term, and machine learning has been used in our algorithms since day one, and in trust and safety and identifying bad actors and all of that. And then more recently, if you're thinking like more generative AI, helping users select a photo, figuring out which is the right photo for them, the prompt feedback that we just talked about, Are You Sure, which is something that we launched, that if you send in a message that we think might not be taken well by the other person, we can prompt you to like say, are you really sure that you want to send that? And
I want to know what the most flagged, like what the vibe is of all the messages that get the "Are you sure?"
You probably don't. But you know, but I will say that there are a lot of like what we call like accidental bad actors that like aren't quite contextually aware of like what's an appropriate thing to send at this stage in the conversation, and we can help nudge them in the right direction.
I want to talk a little bit about monetization. There was a very nice lady, she was straightening my hair yesterday ahead of a panel, and she complained to me that she was like on all of these apps, so I don't know if Hinge was included or not. You have to pay to meet people at this point. You have to pay for that premium tier. Is that true? What is your approach?
It's not true. I will say that one of I'll keep talking about principles because Hinge is a very principle-driven company. Like that is very much at our heart, is not making decisions based on whatever personality happens to sit in a leadership seat at any given point, but what are the core principles that have led us to success over time. And when it comes to monetization, that one for us is that the free product experience is sacred. It is absolutely in our best interest to keep the free product experience very good, because if it's not, then users will start leaving, and the primary value for a dating app is the other people who are on the product. So no one will continue to pay if there aren't lots of people on the app who are happy and satisfied and using the app. So it's absolutely in our best interest to make the free product really good. The vast majority of users do not pay on a dating app. And at the same time, we do want to be able to be a business and employ all of our engineers and be able to market and do everything else we do. And so what we charge for, and this is another one of our principles, is that it's really basically for things that we can't give away for free, things that are valuable because they are scarce. Roses, boosts. Like if you had unlimited roses, then they wouldn't mean anything because it's
So what's a rose?
It's a signal of extra interest. You get one free per week and you can buy additional ones, but it's really to say like, hey, you're like someone that I really am interested in and I want to stand out. So roses or boost, if everyone could boost all the time unlimited, like
And a boost is just when you show up.
when you show up more, but if everyone's showing up more, then no one's showing up. Right? So it's things like that, or things that hurt our ecosystem or hurt people's dating outcomes if everyone used them. Preferences, advanced preferences, things like that.
Tell me a little bit about advanced preferences. What are the kinds of things people can set, and what is your strategy around that?
Well, we have preferences around things like, basically if it's a protected class, we want to actually give that preference away for free. Because if you are based on your religion or if you join an app and you're a Sikh and you only want to meet other Sikhs, it's going to be really hard for you just to like peruse through and try to find someone. So like we don't want
And guess their religion.
Yeah, precisely. So that would be very hard. And so anyone who's like in a minority group that wants to be able to find and associate with others in that minority group, I think that's really important. We charge for more advanced preferences around things that we don't necessarily think are critical to dating, but if they're really important to you and you want to do it, then if you want to filter by height, for example, then that's a paid feature.
There's been a lot of really heady talk about the future of AI on dating apps. You know, you spoke a little bit about interviewing things out of people. That's already rolling out now, coming soon. 5 years from now, what's this all going to look like?
The biggest way that I think AI is going to affect dating is much, much more personalized matching. Much deeper understanding of who you are, much deeper understanding of everyone else, and being able to make much more thoughtful and intelligent connections and explain to you why this person's going to be good for you. And I think it will look 3 to 5 years from now, probably sooner than that, honestly. It will feel relatively arcane to feel like you had to go through hundreds of profiles, if not more, in order to get out on a date. And also sort of almost feel like you're feeling around in the dark. Or the analogy I often use is trying to communicate your tastes and preferences to us using Morse code of likes and passes, right? Mm-hmm. We're like, well, if you like someone, we don't, like, why did you like them? We don't know. If you passed on someone, we don't really understand what it is that you know turned you off about that person. And the idea that you could explain to us in your own words directly who you are, what matters to you, what your values are, what your goals are, what your personality is, what really matters to you, what you found works for you in past relationships and what doesn't, and then use all that information to understand what type of person we think would be best for you, go out, and we've had that same conversation with millions of other daters and make really, really thoughtful connections. That seems clearly where the industry is going to go.
Do you think there is a big correlation between what people say they want and what they actually want? Does that make sense?
Not necessarily, especially when it comes to things that you would put on a dating profile. Like they need to be 5'9" or higher. I don't want to keep coming back to height. And like we found the perfect person for you, but they were 5'8". Or like I really think I want to meet, I want to date a tech journalist. Like I will only date a tech journalist. And
no one's ever said that.
And so I think those types of things people maybe would say like, I thought I had a type and I didn't. But understanding people's values and their life goals and seeing like how they kind of align and like how they resolve conflict together. There's just like certain things that actually probably do predict whether people are going to be a good fit or not.
You know, a big conversation around any use of generative AI is privacy, and people on Hinge are sharing really sensitive or vulnerable data about themselves, not just in their profiles, which are pretty public, but in private chats. Mm-hmm. How do you think about that? How do you work with LLMs like OpenAI to, make sure all of that is private? What does that look like?
First of all, Hinge doesn't do any advertising. We don't sell any data. So we are, like, the only way we really use data is to keep our users safe and help them get out on dates. And you can, of course, create agreements with generative AI companies that the data, especially when you're an organization like Hinge, that the data that you use to train models or use their APIs, that data stays non-trainable for them. It's only something that is used for us.
Gotcha. I don't know exactly what it's called, but there's this ability to send a note before you start a conversation.
Yeah.
Tell me about that feature and the sort of idea behind it.
Sure. What you're referring to is match note. And this came from, so another principle at Hinge is that we really believe that if you design for most marginalized groups, you'll end up finding things that actually appeal to a large swath of users and generally increase usability of the app. That principle has been kind of vetted out when thinking about designing an app, even in the simple visual way, and making it more accessible to people who might be colorblind actually makes it more usable to everyone. And so similarly, we were looking at, especially at the time we were talking to trans users, and we were talking to them about their challenges on dating apps. And we have another principle, I'll just keep talking about our principles, design with, not for, meaning like we always try to bring people who we're designing for into the conversation. We try to have them within our organization and hire a highly diverse group of people. And if we don't have them in the room, then we bring them into the room. And this is a case that we brought in Trans Tech Social, which is a nonprofit group that we're able to work with. And one of the big things was that there were these conversations or information that they wanted to convey about who they were, that they didn't feel comfortable putting on their public profile where everyone could just see it whenever they popped up. And at the same time, it was like a hard, awkward conversation to have with every single person after you matched to be like, here's the information that I want you to know. And so we developed a match note, which is a sort of a post-match reveal, which is you match with someone and then before you enter the conversation, something pops up and says, here's something else they wanted you to know, and do you still want to match with this person? And so it's designed for them, but like we've actually found like single parents use it, people with STIs use it, like all kinds of different people will use this feature, which just increases the general usability and accessibility of the app for everybody.
Hinge is part of the Match Group. Match Group is its parent company. Other properties they own include Tinder. How do you kind of work within that conglomerate?
It's evolved over time. When Hinge was acquired back in 2018 period, Match Group pretty much operated like a private equity holding company where each brand was like its own business, and we had our own payroll, we had like our own, we just like did our own thing. And over time, they started to integrate more of like the back office things. And now, we had a new CEO just joined in February who's thinking much more strategically about how you create deeper connections and leverage the power of the portfolio. So it's an evolving equation for sure.
But I'm guessing you don't want to give away too many of your secrets.
I would equate it to like sibling rivalry a little bit. Like there's a little bit of competition, but also you want everyone in the end to succeed. And my belief is that, and this is more work that Spencer is doing, is I think when everyone has like a very clear lane of what they're doing and what they stand for and who their user is and what their values and beliefs are, then you don't have convergence.
Right.
Because everyone's innovating on their own behalf. And yes, you can take inspiration and learn from things that other people are doing, but you don't straight up like lift features and start copying them across, which creates convergence. And if that kind of obfuscates the point of having a portfolio. And so I think they're just gonna figure out how to get that balance right, I think, over time.
Beyond features, do you worry about algorithm convergence?
Well, I'll say that the algorithms are not really, like the uniqueness isn't really in the algorithm, it's in the data that they use to train the algorithm. Mm-hmm. And what is so powerful about Hinge isn't that we have necessarily smarter algorithms, although maybe we do. But it's certainly that the data is so much higher quality because when people fill out longer profiles with more information, when people are much more selective with their likes, then that's much, much better training data. If you and I were to walk down the street and you just looked at people, you went down this row basically and just said yes or no, and based on no further information, and you said yes to half the people and no to half the people, like, I would have no clue how to match you up. If, however, I sat you down for 2-minute speed dating and you told me you liked 1 out of every 10 people, now I'm like starting to learn like what types of people you like and what types of people you don't. And that's essentially the analog version of the difference between a lot of the swipe apps and what Hinge does.
Got 16 seconds left. I'm gonna ask you one last question. What's the best piece of advice you can give to people who are using Hinge right now to use it effectively? Pay for it. No.
It's that truly at the end of the day, like you don't want to engineer your profile for like lots of likes. You actually want to engineer it for like the right likes. And that means as much as you can really show up who you are, and even if that means it's going to turn some people off, it means it's going to turn the right people on. And I think that that is the most effective way to make sure that you spend more time out on great dates.
Be yourself. That's so nice.
I mean, it's really, sometimes like the basic truisms are actually the most true, and we just have to do them.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we are back with Jay, and it's time to wrap up the show with Keeping Tabs. This is where each of us shares a story, trend, or piece of pop culture we're following right now. And Jay, since you're our guest, and you had one of my favorite Keeping Tabs last time you were on, what are you keeping tabs on?
I'm going to return sort of to the same genre and talk to you guys about season 3 of The Diplomat, now out on Netflix.
Oh man, I'm making my way through it. My dad was a diplomat.
Is this the Kerry Russell one?
Yeah.
Here's my pitch to you. What if you took a very diverse cast of extremely photogenic people who, at their absolute scrubbiest, are wearing the nicest suits you've ever seen?
Yep.
And more often than not, are wearing like black tie attire.
Mm-hmm.
And all they do is shuffle from a well-appointed room to well-appointed room, talking in hushed tones about like something. I don't know. The shortest way I can describe the premise for people who aren't familiar is a well-respected but career diplomat gets unexpectedly appointed to the like very high-profile job of ambassador to the UK.
Which was not high profile, which I mean still remains not high profile, but in the show they've elevated it to like a more than ceremonial role.
Yes, if you want to truther this show, we can go for 3 hours.
No.
Okay?
No, that's not it, but I'm just...
Yeah. No, but I think you're exactly right that you have to set aside
everything.
So much disbelief in order for this show to work. Like, you quickly find out that the reason the lead, who is, as Josh said, played by Kerry Russell, the reason she got elevated to this is because she is being like given a soft audition to replace a vice president who is beset by scandal and expected to resign soon. Now, if you are listening to this and thinking, why would a career diplomat be on a short list for replacement vice presidents? Like, shut up, you're thinking too much, okay? I want to go back to the premise here. These people are so attractive.
True. Is it true?
The guy who plays the UK foreign secretary is just like a one-man pitch for the idea of getting jacked and then wearing 3-piece suits to show how jacked you are. I'm mostly a work from... I don't even know why I would say mostly. Like, mostly is making myself more important than I sound. I am a work from home guy. If I put on a shirt with a collar, something either terrible or important or both has happened. And this show has me asking myself questions like, do I need to become a suit guy? Like an at-home suit guy? Like, all by itself. Strongly recommended. And this is also one of those shows where like the plot is really unimportant. If you catch yourself nodding off, do you need to go back and find out what happened in the plot? No, absolutely not. Look at those people in their nice clothes speaking in hushed tones. Okay? Just stay with it. Yeah.
I started watching this late, and it's like very squarely in my wheelhouse because my dad was a diplomat in the Middle East for a long time for the US. But the two things that turned me off were, one, they announced the season 3 cast, and it's got a bunch of people from the West Wing.
Oh, Allison Janney and Bradley Whitford. I saw this.
I was like, this could turn into...
I love Allison Janney, though.
Allison Janney shows up in season 2 as the, spoiler alert, scandal-ridden outgoing vice president.
Oh.
And I think she's great in terms of being evil on screen. She does a great evil in this show.
Yeah.
I do concede that the addition of, and again, I'm not spoiling anything, Bradley Whitford in season 3, I'm just like, hey, I see what you're doing there.
Yep.
Don't
make it more like this.
Don't. If Martin Sheen shows up, yeah.
Don't do this to me. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a Rufus Sewell stan.
Mm-hmm.
I love Rufus Sewell.
I saw him on stage. He was so good. I feel like he's a really good actor.
He is.
But he can't be in anything good. He's like he's like terrible at picking projects. Do you know what I mean?
He has the very cool thing going here where Rufus Sewell is British, but he plays an American who is stationed in the UK.
Yeah.
So you're just like, oh, what fantastic accent acrobatics are you doing in your head to make this work?
It's true.
Britception.
Josh, what are you keeping tabs on?
I need to focus on something that's not depressing, so I'm going to talk about the Great British Bake Off.
A show I have never managed to get into. It's too boring.
It's so lovely.
People are too nice.
Yeah, I know. You're the one person whose criticism...
I need more drama.
Your same criticism of Ted Lasso, why you hate that show, too nice.
Fuck this show. Nothing's going on.
Great British Bake Off is great. I'm obviously very much into like cooking and baking myself, so I enjoy cooking shows generally. It's been a great season. The finale is tomorrow from the day this comes out, so it's on Friday. The like shoe-in winner... I'm not going to spoil this for anyone if you haven't caught up. The shoe-in winner is this baker who is maybe the best baker that's ever been on the show. It's so cool what they make. I love watching this show. If you like Great British Bake Off, get in the comments. That's all. That's all I'm keeping tabs on. I don't want to keep tabs on anything else other than things that are nice right now.
You know why I can't get into that show?
Why?
Too nice?
Not enough attractive people in three-piece suits.
Yeah, that's fair.
That is true. That is true. There is not a lot of rippling muscles in Great British Bake Off.
I need bespoke, super one. Yeah, well, I need all of that. You know, to each their own.
You've got middle-aged Noel Fielding and then Paul Hollywood. Best eyes, worst haircut on Paul Hollywood. Yaz, what are you keeping tabs on?
This is like the Charlie from It's Always Sunny, like string thing that you mentioned earlier of keeping tabs. But last week, there were 2 insane magazine covers that came out. Actually, one might have been the week before, which was...
Gonna open a Google image search tab. Go ahead.
They actually, well, one of them looked insane. The other one was just a crazy choice. The Wall Street Journal gave Priscilla Chan Zuckerberg their Innovators Award for her work on the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. But it was a little confusing because they didn't mention really any of the school closures or other things that have plagued the really anything her husband's done. And they came out with these weird social videos that were like her being like, my guilty pleasure is a glass of champagne. Be like, well, this seems a little tone deaf.
Is this from the same series, How Priscilla Chan Knew Her Husband, Mark Zuckerberg, Was the One?
Yep.
I can't think of a question in which I'm less interested in the answer.
Oh, God.
I find Priscilla Chan endlessly fascinating. I really do. Like, Vanity Fair had a big article about CZI. We've talked about it in the magazine. But it was just a weird framing. And then Zuck was posting a lot of photos of him and Priscilla in black tie being like, so proud of my wife who just won this award. And then the other one I wanted to bring up was Kimberly Guilfoyle on the cover of Vogue Greece.
My God.
One of the funniest covers I've ever seen.
What?
What
What an incredible sequence of words, once again.
Please look it up. I was just like,
oh my God.
How did this happen? Because Condé Nast, like, they're like fairly centralized when it comes to covers. Like, who was like, this is a good idea? Because she's like not even really in the mix anymore. She's like an ambassador to Greece. Speaking of the diplomat.
Oh, she's ambassador to Greece?
Yeah, dude.
I didn't know that.
That is a buried lead. Is that her real job?
Yes. Guys, you didn't know this? So Don Jr. dumped her, and then they were like...
Talk about the diplomat, am I right?
They were like, fuck, we need to do something with this lady. They just made her ambassador to Greece.
That's...
Okay, controversial opinion. Not a fan of Kim Guilfoyle's work, life, career, entire thing.
She was really hot back in the day when she was married to Gavin Newsom. That's what you're going for, then I agree.
She crushed this, okay? Like, she went from... like long-term in a relationship with the greasiest Trump child to ambassador to like a Mediterranean country with great weather.
That's fair. That's
like,
fair.
Terrific job.
It's pretty nice.
What if it becomes really important, like in The Diplomat?
I mean, we're screwed then.
But then it's her. And the thing that both of these made me think about, because I was talking to my husband and I was like, you know, Marie Antoinette is like an obvious example, but what is like a funny, like historical corollary? And I remembered one of my favorite...
To Kimberly Guilfoyle?
To like both of these covers.
Oh, yeah.
And I remembered probably my favorite fact ever about a dictator, which is Nicolae Ceausescu's wife, whose name was, let me look this up, Lenuda Petrescu, had one major hobby, and it was traveling around the world to accept medical breakthrough awards that she was not involved in any way. And this kind of has that vibe to me. Well, the Innovators Award one does. You know what I mean?
I want to unpack something a little bit. Do you have a ranking of your favorite dictator facts?
No, I just know that's number one, and it will never
that's
change.
Fair. I wanted to understand like how like thought out these rankings are.
Well, it's like, you know, when you start on a Wikipedia, it's like the serial killer's Wikipedia page, but it's with dictators.
Yes.
That one's good. Imelda Marcos, also a very fascinating Wikipedia page for what it's worth.
I like recording keeping tabs with you guys because each time we keep a tab then opens up like 3 more tabs that are even more demented. If we do this again in the future, we really should, like, the first tab should just be like, we don't even need to record it. Like, let's just see what we get like 5 or 6 steps removed.
It's just random word association at this point.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, this was great. Jay, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it as always.
And that's it for Most Innovative Companies. Jay, thank you for joining us. Our show is produced by Sam Gebauer, Hawa Atori, and Blake Odom. Editing by Matt Toder, mix and sound design by Tad Wadhams and Nicholas Torres, and our executive producer is Josh Christensen. Remember again to subscribe, rate, and review, and we'll see you next week.